are there benchmarks for like financial knowledge that kids should have? Like in schools, for example, we have kind of curricular benchmarks for when you teach, like you don't teach fractions to kindergartners, right? You start introducing,
No.
right? Or like you're not teaching like the 5 paragraph essay to a second grader, but like you're moving towards certain like benchmarks for kids to understand. Are there financial benchmarks that we should
There
know about for
aren't.
teens?
And trust me, if there were, there should be for adults too.
Yeah.
I mean, I
Yeah.
don't think this is restricted to children, but there aren't. And so, like I said, with allowance, you need the kid to be facile with adding and subtracting. Otherwise, it's unfair,
Okay, so
right?
there we go. There's a benchmark. Help them
That's
with
a
their math
benchmark. That's
skills.
first or second grade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So have them make sure that they're happy enough to add and subtract. And then I like to introduce a bank account, a checking account in high school, ninth or 10th grade, depending on your child, with a debit card that they can start using
Hmm.
and start like it. For my daughter, there's no cafeteria. She's in one of those magnet schools, like, and it's in a building on a college campus, blah, blah, blah. There's no cafeteria. So she had to go out to eat a couple days a week. So we had to introduce the debit card,
Hmm. Hmm.
Otherwise, you're walking around with cash. And
cash and losing it and whatever. And nowadays, as you rightly point out, very few people use cash. So you
yeah,
want to introduce items like debit cards and accounts and what's the difference between a debit card and a credit card. Those conversations should be had in ninth and 10th grade.
Okay. Okay.
Earlier if they're into it, but in ninth and 10th grade to
yeah. I was
prepare
gonna say,
them for
Lori, like
college.
I have a sixth grader, and we're actually kind of starting this process and talking about getting him like a debit card at this point because he's responsible and like he has an interest.
Every
And
kid is different, exactly. So she had one of those like cards that we put money on and then she could use
yeah,
it. I found that to be too inflexible and too difficult. Um, but that works really well for a kid in fifth, sixth, and seventh and eighth grade. Those cards work really well. There's more control, but they're less flexible. Once they're in high school, I'm introducing accounts to them.
Uh-huh.
okay.
Okay. So so some of the benchmarks we've talked about, like reinforce math skills and hopefully make math enjoyable, right?
Yeah.
So that it's not right.
Sure.
Right? Introduce an allowance, a not chore based allowance,
Hmm.
um, and make sure that your kid understands credit cards versus debit cards, and it makes sure that they've got a bank account starting sometime in high school.
Yeah,
And,
because like
Lori,
my daughter was confused because she had this card before and she's like, Mommy, can you load more money on the
hmm,
card? And I handed her this debit card and I'm like, guess whose card this is now? Right? And I had to explain to her, and it took a couple of conversations how the debit card was different than the card she had had.
uh-huh.
That it's not loading the money on, the money's in the account, right? These are nuances that all of us just don't even notice because we've been doing it for so long,
Yeah.
but they need to be taught.